feels really strange sitting down and making a video about something that's not exactly happy, but I felt like this was a story that I am ready to share and I wanted to share with you guys. I have already written about it on my blog before. I'll link that below in case any of you want to read it. But I thought that I would make a video about my experience with an ectopic pregnancy. Start at the beginning. If you don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is, it's basically where a pregnancy develops outside of the womb. So it can sometimes attach to your abdomen. I think they can attach to your intestine, or they can develop in your fallopian tube. And mine did develop in my left fallopian tube. We weren't trying for children. I had absolutely no idea I was pregnant. Got home from work, I'd picked up Harry from the childminders, I felt absolutely fine, and I came upstairs to get changed. And I was up here a little while because I suddenly started to feel quite dizzy. Scott started to think, where are you, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I just feel a bit unwell, I just feel a bit dizzy. Lay down for 5 minutes and I just felt worse and worse. I felt really spaced out, like I was going to pass out. So I head downstairs because I also had like this really tight cramping stomach ache, and without being too graphic, I just felt like I really needed to go to the toilet. So I went and sat on the toilet and the pain just wouldn't stop. It was like a contraction pain and it was just agony. So I sat there for a while, it must have been about half an hour, and then I just felt like I needed to lay on the floor or I was going to faint. And at that point Scott was like, what the hell is going on? Have you got a stomach bug? And I thought, yeah, I must have got food poisoning because I'd had sushi at lunch. So I just laid on my bathroom floor and curled up in a ball, and it was horrible. Scott sent me to bed with a hot water bottle and some paracetamol. He went down to our local shop and bought me some tablets for extreme stomach cramps. I took some of those and I just went to sleep, and I just curled in like the tightest little ball. I remember just curling up really tight with my hot water bottle to try and stop the pain. I didn't actually wake up in the night at all from the pain, but when I woke up in the morning I just felt a bit groggy, like I just wasn't really feeling that well, and I said to Scott, I'm going to call in sick and just have a day in bed. I rang in sick and I started to get ready and I was going to take Harry to his childminders, and Scott went off to work. He was getting the train. We live right next to the train station, so he was walking there. As I got in the shower, I just felt the most intense pain in my stomach ever. It was literally like I was giving birth. It was so painful, and I again felt like I was going to faint straight away. I managed to get myself from our bathroom, which is downstairs luckily, into our living room where my little boy Harry was, and I just remember dropping to the floor because I thought if I don't lay on the floor I'm gonna pass out. So I thought I need to use like as little energy as possible. So I just laid on the floor and I called Harry and I was signing to him, get mummy's phone, go and get the phone. And he did, which still like makes my heart go funny, but he did. He managed to go into the kitchen and he reached up onto the side and he gave me my phone and I managed to call Scott. And I don't know what I said. I think I was like, you need to come, I'm in so much pain, something's wrong, something's really wrong. And thank God he hadn't got on his train yet, and he came running home and was home within a few minutes. So Scott got home, and by this point we just had no idea what it was, and I started to think, I think I've got appendicitis, because that's where the pain sort of was, and that's how I imagined the pain to be. For some reason we didn't call an ambulance, which was probably a bit silly in hindsight, but we called Scott's dad and he came and got me and took me to hospital. Scott can't drive at the moment because of his brain tumour. When I got to hospital, it's a bit of a blur, but I do have a bit of memory from it. I was taken into a room and I just remember the lady asking me if I could be pregnant. And I said no, I'd just had a period a few days before. She said, well, you could still be pregnant, we need to do a test. And I was like, okay, great, well, give me the test. But I was in absolute agony, I was in so much pain, I didn't think I could go to the toilet to be able to take the pregnancy test. And then when I was sat in the little room, it's like the triage room that you get at A&E, I suddenly started to get an intense pain in my left shoulder. Which was really strange because I was obviously experiencing pain in my tummy, and I was like, why is my shoulder now hurting, what is going on? And I mentioned it to the nurse that was assessing me, and straight away she pressed a button and all these people came running in, wheeled me down, and I had absolutely no idea what was going on. It turns out that if you have pain in your left shoulder, it usually means that you have blood in your abdomen or in your lower body, and it's basically a sign of it being really, really dangerous. So I was taken into the proper emergency part of the hospital, and I managed to do a teeny wee so they could do a pregnancy test, which came back positive. By this time Scott still wasn't with me. He was sorting Harry out with his childminder, and then he was coming up to the hospital, so I was by myself, and a doctor had told me that I was pregnant, but perhaps I wasn't pregnant because I could have been having a miscarriage. So it was sort of one of two things. I was either having some sort of miscarriage, an ectopic pregnancy, or I had appendicitis, but I was also pregnant. It was all very confusing, and by that time I was absolutely in so much pain. Like, I just remember it was just going through my entire body. So they gave me morphine. I was pretty much out of it. But apparently Scott turned up shortly after, and they sort of talked him through what they thought it was and the fact that I was going to be going down to surgery. Explained to him that because of the pain that I was in and the pain in my shoulder, that they didn't have time to do a scan, so they wouldn't know what was going on until they actually cut me open and looked inside, which I think for Scott and for me at the time, even though I don't really remember, was really, really, really scary. Not really knowing what was going on, but knowing that, you know, I was going to be going under general anaesthetic and having an operation. Apparently I signed a consent form, which I don't remember doing at all, but I signed a consent form as they were wheeling me down to surgery, and that was it. I was out of it. Next thing I remember was waking up in a resuscitation area, I think it was, with someone doing my observation. She said to me that if I wanted to, then my mum and my partner Scott could come and see me just for a few minutes, just to see that I was okay. So they came in, and obviously it was all really emotional, but I still was pretty much out of it, and I didn't even know what had happened or what was going on. After I'd sort of woken up a little bit more, Scott sat with me and he told me that I had had an ectopic pregnancy and that it was developing in my left fallopian tube, which had then burst and caused internal bleeding. It was then that he told me that the surgeon that operated on me couldn't do keyhole surgery because of the amount of blood in my stomach. I think there was over 2 pints of blood, which apparently is quite a lot for someone of my size, and he was really, really shocked that I hadn't actually died from the blood loss. He couldn't do keyhole surgery, so he had to cut straight across my stomach, pretty much like a C-section. He did it really neat, bless him. He'd cut me open and he'd removed the pregnancy, and he'd also removed my left fallopian tube. So being told that was insane. Like, I'd obviously 24 hours before been at work and been fine and didn't know I was pregnant, and then suddenly I was told I was pregnant but I wasn't, and it was all a very, very like weird time. Like, I didn't feel sad that I had lost a baby or anything. I didn't think that it was a baby. I hadn't even processed that. I think it was just the fact that my body had done something a bit crazy and let me down, and that I had almost lost my life, which is just insane to think about. I still find that really crazy to think about now. So I was in hospital for 2 nights, I think, 2 days and 2 nights, and I was in absolute agony. I won't lie to you, the operation that I had was quite big. Obviously it's like a C-section scar, so you can't do all the usual things, you know, exercise or walking around or picking things up. You're very limited to what you can do. But I'd also had something in my body removed, and all my muscles and this whole part of my body was just also painful. Staples in my tummy, and I just remember every time I looked at them I cried, and I just absolutely hated them. I was only in hospital for 2 days, and then I came home and my partner Scott looked after me. The doctor said to me I should have, I think it was like 6 weeks off work, but I only took about 2 or 3 in the end. I just felt like I didn't want to sit at home, and I actually did start to feel better after 3 about 3 weeks. The main reason I wanted to share this story was because, not really for my own benefit, although it's obviously quite good to talk about these things, it's more because I remember going online and trying to find some videos or some blog posts about people who'd had similar experiences to me, and there just wasn't a lot out there. So that's the reason I wrote my blog post, and that's kind of the reason why I'm making this video. But also I want to raise awareness, because obviously I had no idea of what an ectopic pregnancy really was. I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know how common it was. I didn't really know the symptoms or the signs. Obviously my signs were quite severe, and I know that sometimes it can come on a bit more progressively, but mine was obviously quite severe, so I did obviously seek help quite quickly. But I just think that if there is a chance that you could be pregnant and you do have similar signs to me, then just get it checked out, even if it's nothing, because you could save your life. I do want more children, and it hasn't put me off getting pregnant. I do have worries. I am worried that it will happen again, because it is more common if you've had an ectopic pregnancy to have another one, even though it's not like really common, but it is common. But I have been told that you have scans really early on in your pregnancies next time, to make sure that it's obviously going where it should be and not getting stuck in your tubes. Obviously I've only got one tube now, so I'm hoping that that one serves me well. So that's my story, and I hope that it has helped somebody else in this position, or it's helped you have a better understanding of what an ectopic pregnancy is and how it can affect you. I am okay. It took me a long time to be okay within myself. It was quite a scary thing, and I've now got to get used to having this big scar across my tummy. So I hope you like this video and it wasn't too mundane. I'll be back to my normal bubbly self in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.